Okay, so patch 8.8, the biggest change I want to talk about, what I'm most interested in this patch, is the change to the red trinket. And so let's get right into it. Basically, what happens is they're removing the sweeper's lens, and now you just always have oracles, starting from level 1 or whenever you purchase it. Um, and so this has, honestly, it looks like it has a big impact, or I feel like it's going to have a big impact on the early stages of the game. And so, primarily for junglers and supports, because those are the two roles that usually are buying the red trinket. So, specifically for supports, though, because you needed to upgrade it, you're waiting to upgrade it to level 9. I know that supports, you're usually hitting level 9 at maybe 15 minutes into the game, which is a significant, waiting period until you can get that. Now, granted, you're not buying red trinket at the beginning of the game, so maybe if you buy it around 5 minutes, that's a 10-minute period where you're going to have the sweeping lens instead of oracles. And, well, what does that mean? So, I think for melee supports, this is sort of like strictly a buff, because melee supports love to walk around and sweep vision, and they feel, typically they feel safe doing it. However, range supports don't usually have that kind of luxury. If you face check into their jungler, usually you're going to die. And what Sweeping Lens did is it actually gave you an insane amount of range. The cast range on Sweeping Lens is really, really far. And if you were sort of nervous about checking a bush, you could actually Sweeping Lens on that brush and then see if there's anyone there, see if the enemy's there. If not, you can sort of, increase your vision, which is really good for range supports, but melee supports didn't exactly need that. So, I think that this heavily benefits melee supports more so than ranged in the early stages of the game, but I think there's also some merit to why it's just better in general. And I think this unlocks more sort of gank potential in the early game, just because you're able to deny more vision with oracles, because you can sweep more bushes. And speaking of that, I think the bottom lane to bushes is something that should be looked at, because typically you can just ward kind of both of them. If you have a sightstone, it's not really a problem. And it's really hard to deny both bushes at the same time, because if you're using Sweeping Lens, you could only sweep one bush. You couldn't sweep both of them, assuming your wards aren't right next to each other. You would need maybe a combination of the Sweeping Lens and a pink ward. Now, however, if you have control of your lane, you can just turn on your oracles and sweep both bushes and get vision control there. And I think this actually can unlock potentially better lane ganks, and it might give lane more incentive for your jungler to actually gank through the lane. So I think that's a pretty interesting point to think about. I think it might happen more so in this patch than before. Yeah. And for junglers, also, when you get an earlier oracles, it just gives you more vision denial, more pressure, more control of the river, basically. If you're ever looking for ganks, and you're trying to figure out whether they have wards there, you can just cover more ground with oracles. So I think this is just all in all a buff for junglers, and it could be interesting what supports do with this. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching, and see ya.